After my first baby was born, it was a little boy, and there had been problems with his birth and delivery. I'd had forceps and his jaw had been crushed during the delivery. But this wasn't picked up because there were no outward signs of any injury or trauma to him. So it looked, to all intents and purposes, like he was feeding from me properly, but he just wasn't really getting any milk. I had a lot of milk, and so this resulted in me getting mastitis continually for the first 10 days, and I was having regular medication, but it wasn't dealing with it because it was just coming back straight away. And so that resulted in me having a huge abscess on my breast, which was a bit like the size of a golf ball. And it grew obviously gradually, but during that period I was seen by a number of healthcare professionals, and none of them really understood the significance of it because none of them were speaking to each other. So the midwife saw it and told me to go and speak to the GP. I couldn't get a GP appointment because it was very busy, so I had a telephone appointment, and the GP said that if the midwife had been concerned, then she would have sent me straight to A&E. And as she was coming back a couple of days later, because they do come regularly at the beginning, then she could reassess it at that stage. The health visitor then turned up on day 10 and was horrified by the size of the abscess and suggested that I contacted the midwife again. I rung the midwife and she said, "Have you been in touch with the GP?" And at this point, I'm not feeling particularly well, so I say yes. And she said, "Well, if he's said it was okay, then I'm sure it's fine, and I'm coming tomorrow anyway." My mum then comes, and because my husband had gone back to work, so she comes to stay, and she sees it and immediately rings the midwife surgery. So because of that, a different midwife comes out to see me, and she looks at it and takes my temperature and realises that I am probably having some form of sepsis shock, and immediately rings an ambulance, and I'm taken to A&E and have to have it surgically removed. The trauma that caused to myself and to Tom was quite significant. He had to be taken from me because he couldn't be with me. And when you're in the labour ward and after you've had your baby, you're told that your baby has to be with you at all times. Because if he's not, then he won't bond with you and you won't be able to breastfeed. And if you don't breastfeed, obviously you're a horrendous mother. So I couldn't breastfeed because I had a massive bandage on me. And so it was a very difficult time. And I think that if there had been digital records, which had meant that the GP could have logged online, could have seen that the midwife had been concerned and had simply said, "GP should look at this," then perhaps somebody earlier on would have done something about it. With my second pregnancy, I'd had completely normal pregnancy up until about 37 weeks. And I went to the dentist with my little boy who was 2. And he was very distressed about the dentist and was screaming a lot, and I probably hadn't had very much to eat or sleep, and I became very stressed, and I fainted and woke up on the dentist chair surrounded by every dentist, 2 paramedics, Tom being walked around in a corner somewhere, because he was obviously very upset, and an oxygen mask on me, and all hell had broken loose. And so they had to then take me to A&E. When we got to A&E, they had no record on me, so I didn't have my maternity records with me because obviously I'd just gone to the dentist, not the hospital. And they had to take basically a whole history from me. They had to scan me, they had to do blood tests, all of that. And then, having done all that, they then sent me across the road to the labour ward to have everything repeated because they weren't communicating again. And so I was basically in all day. So I feel that the maternity record standard that's been brought in and the digitalisation of health records will be a lot better, because actually all they needed to have done was to input my name. It would have come up with my health record and they could have seen all about me, about my first birth, what had happened. If there had been digital records, it wouldn't have been as difficult as it was.